Hello everyone, welcome into another tactics video for FIFA 23 here on the channel. I'm Ash or Brommer18, whichever you prefer. Today, we have another tactics video for you. It is Urs Fischer's Union Berlin tactics. Obviously started off very well in the Bundesliga. Without doubt, the most requested and popular suggestion that I've had on the channel for a tactic in recent weeks. In this video today, I'll be showing you all of the custom tactics, player instructions, talking about why and how they do it. And we start off with this. It is a 3-5-2 system, of which we have a couple of position changes, so do bear with me. We're going to talk about them very, very shortly. And then we'll go into the custom tactics and then the player instructions as well. Before we do get into that, I just quickly want to say, go and check out my Patreon. The link is down below. On there you get access to exclusive tactics videos that I don't do on the channel, as well as my tactics package. If you want to see ratings and rankings and suitable teams to play as with this tactic, you can find that on my Patreon, as well as behind the scenes videos, early access, Discord server access, and a whole lot of other perks. On top of that, check out my video games podcast. Currently ongoing, got a few episodes out already discussing lots of different video games, me and my pal Ash. So the links are down below, do go and check that one out as well. With that being said, let's get into it. So with regards to the 3-5-2 formation that we have already mentioned, there are a couple of position changes. You can go with whichever one you want. I started with the 5-3-2 and then decided to move both the wing backs to left midfield and right midfield. What this is going to do is it's going to get them further up the field. Now, it does a better job of replicating the wing-back roles at wing-back this year in FIFA, but it's still better having them as midfielders, because then you can also impact the instructions. You have different player instructions that you can utilise and change, and you can replicate their role a whole lot more accurately than what you could if they were at wing back. Make sure that you have one midfielder as the flat CDM, that defensive midfielder. The two ahead of him are right and left central midfielders, and then with a centre back, obviously you're going to have the central centre back, and then you're going to have a left centre back and a right centre back as well. So please do bear that one in mind. With regards to the team tactics, so defensively, let's start off. We have pressure on heavy touch. They like to implement this often. What you'll find is occasionally they will instigate a team press as a unit when the opposition start playing around. It's always instigated by the strikers. When one of them goes, all of a sudden that instigates the rest of the team to go. If you feel like there are opportunities that you can't, or that you want to press but it isn't happening in game, then you can instigate the team press. That would be down and then left on the D-pad on your controller, and that will help you to do a team press as well. Remember, you can also use the likes of the teammate contain function. With the width, we have it on 30. Fairly narrow, but with that kind of free back and the free midfield, it's a little bit more crowded in central areas. You can be a little bit wider in this situation. However, they're very much still trying to force you out wide. They like you to try and beat them out wide, because then you've got to start crossing balls into the box, and they back their centre backs all day long. So we have it on 30, and it gives you a nice balance there. The depth is on 60. Now, it's a mid block. Now, what I found was, despite the fact that it was generally this kind of more kind of aggressive mid block, a lot of the times they were still getting caught in behind, and they're quite vulnerable to this. So that was definitely an issue, partly because of the kind of slow defenders, but also because they were just committing. And we'll talk about more what happens with the two wide centre backs shortly. But with this on 60, you should hopefully get that nice balance. But remember that they do still kind of get caught in behind often. What do we have offensively? Well, the build-up play is on long ball. The first time we are doing that this year. In fact, it's the first 3-5-2 system that we're doing this year, actually. And what you're going to notice is players are going to be showing for the ball a lot earlier in the build-up play. When you are on transition, particularly from your own defensive third, the likes of the strikers, they're going to be ready to run in behind instantly. The same with the wing-backs as well, and even the central midfielders. And we can couple this in with the chance creation, which is forward runs. It's absolutely built around high volume of movement, constant runs, particularly from the strikers, the central midfielders as well. It is an ultra counter-attacking system, and they're really good at that. It's how they've scored a lot of their goals. Just that high fluidity of movement, really, really good. And this is the best way to kind of recreate forward runs, 100%. The width is on 70, giving you a wide shape. They like to stretch the play. They like to, it helps them with that forward runs and long ball, because it creates more space. You know, you're stretching the opposition out and you're creating more space for each of your players. In addition to that, what it does is that not only does it get obviously the wing backs wider, as they will be with their position anyway, but the central midfielders, they're going to stretch, the strikers are going to stretch. It's just going to get them into more space, and this is the most important thing, exploiting the space that is created within this system. The players in the box is on 6, giving you 3 players in the box. You've always got the 2 strikers in there. You've also got one of the central midfielders getting in there as well, which we are going to speak about shortly. The wing backs would occasionally get in, particularly the left wing back would occasionally get into the box, but only if one of the central midfielders or strikers weren't. And so with this, you're trying to create that balance. So I kept it on 3. It's generally 3 that are getting into the box. They like to have that protection on the edge of the area as well. Corners and free kicks, both of these are on 4. Now remember, their set pieces, attacking wise, are very, very important. They've scored quite a few goals from these situations. You've got to try and make the most of these if you possibly can. They're a fairly tall team as well. They've got quite a few targets in the box. So if you can, possibly make the most of this. So let's talk about the player instructions next. Now we'll start off with the goalkeeper here. We've got him on comes for crosses, and I always kind of advise you guys on all of these tactics videos, make sure to get your keeper on comes across. It just helps you out. Now sometimes they don't, and you'll have to manually do it with the Y button or using the right analog stick. That's absolutely fine. But sometimes they do, and it just helps you out. It really does. It relieves that little bit of pressure on you because they are generally protected in this game, and that really does help. We say outside the box, I actually noticed the keeper was more reserved, which is a surprise because, as we spoke about earlier, they were constantly getting exploited in behind. A lot of the time, when they did kind of push up, the centre-backs would step up a few yards, and they were getting exploited, and balls were being played in behind to runners. The keeper wasn't coming out, and his starting position was fairly deep. He wasn't in a position to kind of sweep. So I was a little bit surprised about that, but definitely he's on balance. He is more reserved. With the 2 centre-backs, now I kind of alluded to it earlier. And part of the reason why they did also keep getting exploited in behind with those balls is because the 2 wide centre-backs I noticed would often step out a little bit more, look to intercept a little bit more aggressively, look to try and win the ball back, whereas the central defender of the 3, usually Nosh, he would remain reserved and stay within that position. So he's more on the cover basically, not quite a sweeper, but just on the cover for the 2 wide centre-backs who would step out a little bit more. So whilst both of these are on aggressive interceptions, the wide centre-backs, he's on normal in the centre. And other than that, you don't need to change any of the other instructions for them. With the wing backs, a couple of different instructions here. Let's start off with the left wing back. He's on comeback on defence. It's going to get them tracking back, and that is how you get the best of making it a 5 back when in the defensive phase, because they will track back, they will bed in with the back line and help to form a back 5, and that's something that the game is really good at. His chance creation on stay wide, he's going to be the widest man on the pitch, creating that width, as will the right wing back, and his support runs he's getting behind. As we alluded to earlier, he's more of the aggressive of the 2, is the left wing back. He gets forward more, he contributes to the attacking phases more, and it's more about personnel than anything. We'll talk about Trimmel shortly. His support on crosses is balanced. As I spoke about earlier, you only really want 3 in the box. They don't commit too many in the box. They like to have players surrounding the edge of the area. And then his interceptions are on normal. Now on the right wing back, it's a little bit different. He's still on comeback on defence to get him tracking back, and he's still on stay wide as well, but this time his support runs are unbalanced. As I spoke about, it's more to do with the personnel than anything. As you'll see here, he's someone who he isn't very fast, and at 35 years of age now is Trimmel, you know, he is losing those kind of physical advantages. And so as a result, what you've noticed is he's starting to remain back a lot more. He's not constantly supporting attacks. He's helping to form a back 4 with those 3 centre-backs as well, and that's how they can keep that solidity at the back. And we'll talk about how we complement for that a little bit later when we come on to Becker up front. His support on crosses stay on the edge of the box for the cross. You definitely do not want him advancing into that area, unlike Ryerson, who was unbalanced and may occasionally get into the area. And then his interceptions are on normal. So with Remy Khedira in defensive midfield, then first things first, we've got cut passing lanes. It is a lane press and also that zonally orientated system, very much that modern German philosophy. And you're seeing that in action there in Union Berlin. His attacking support is stay back while attacking. Again, for the same reason. He's very much that out-and-out defensive midfielder, looks to protect the midfield, looks to protect the attackers. His interceptions are on normal, and then his defensive position is on cover centre. The two central midfielders ahead of him, they're the ones who are going to be dragged out wide and looking to kind of support the wide areas if they need to in the defensive phase. Whereas he's going to man that area and make sure that you aren't getting outnumbered in those central areas. Finally, his positioning freedom is stick to position. You don't want him drifting around into too many pockets of space. You want him to stay within that tactical setup. So, with the two central midfielders, a couple of different roles. Now, let's start off with, I think we'll start off with Schaefer here. So, his attacking support is unbalanced. And his support on crosses is stay on the edge of the box for the cross. As we said, you're going to have generally 3, which means one central midfielder doesn't go. Now, if we have a look at the other central midfielder here, you'll notice his attacking support is on get forward and get into the box of the cross. Now, what you're going to find is one central midfielder will help support the strikers and get into the box, and then the other one remains on the edge of the area. But the issue is, obviously, you can't rotate between the two on this game. You generally want it to just be one or the other, because that's how they do it. One will go, the other one will stay, and they'll rotate between that. But on this game, naturally, you can't do that, so you have to set one or the other. So in this case, I just went with the left central midfielder, so you can pick whichever one you like, really. I liked the fact to do it on this side where we have that target man, so we've got a runner, and we'll talk about that very shortly when we do get onto the forwards. So with him, you've got him on get forward, you've got him on get into the box with the cross. His positioning freedom is drift wide, and he is going to be helping to support that wing back on that side, making sure that they do not get outnumbered. Also helping with that high volume of movement, as we spoke about. With him drift wide, he's going to burst into that space on the width, just help at counter-attacking moves, full stop. And his defensive position is also on cover centre. Remember, with this central midfielder who is on balanced attack and stay on the edge of the box for the cross, he is also on drift wide for his positioning freedom, and his defensive position is cover wing. Make sure, as well, as we alluded to earlier, that you've got him as left central midfielder and this one as the right central midfielder, just so you want him getting into those half spaces as well. Again, creating a little bit of movement, helping to get them into positions and into more space. So with the forwards then, let's start off with Sabetu. First things first, his support runs is balanced with, he's very much that physical specimen up front, as you can see here, 84 strength and 80 jumping and 6'3". He's very much about holding the ball up, a target, someone to get the ball into and then get runners in and around him. And that's why we have the box-to-box midfielder on this side to help support him. So his attacking runs, his target man, he's going to look to back and suppose, ask the ball to feet, help to lay it off. And his defensive support is stay forward. You'll notice both of these strikers don't really contribute to the defensive phase of play. They are there to help counter-attacks because you can get the ball up to them quickly, and with them both up front, that's really going to help you to do that. It's going to be a nightmare for the opposition because they've got to kind of constantly be aware of that, even if they are on the attack. Now with Becker on the other side, completely polar opposite of a role. He's on drift wide, first things first. He's going to look to support the wide areas. Now, reason why I have him on the right is because naturally you're not getting that movement from the wing back on the right hand side because he's not getting forward as much, and so as a result you need to get a little bit of support in those channels on the right. And so as a result, we're going to put him on the right and we're going to go with drift wide. We're also got him on getting behind as well. His pace is absolutely electrifying. 94 acceleration, 95 sprint speed. So he is there to utilise that as much as physically possible. His defensive support is also on stay forward as well, as we spoke about. Him and Sabetu very much going to look to be those kind of outballs and help them utilise counter attacks. Right then, with that being said, I think it's just about time to round it off. Didn't find too much differences in the way they play depending on different situations. I found regardless of whether they were playing against Dortmund, against Bayern, it was very much a case of the same old philosophies. And the reason why they can get away with that is because there is a little bit of variety within this system. You can still kind of play on the front foot if when you need to with that mid block, with a pressure on heavy touch. but then you can kind of drop back as well. You can play in the counter attack. You can look to kind of make it compact. You've got a bit of everything within this system, so they don't need to make too many major changes to the overall execution of the tactic depending on the opposition. So please do bear that one in mind as well. If you've got any questions about the system, please do let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to check out my Roma Football Manager 2023 series that is ongoing at the moment. Really enjoying that one. Without a doubt, my favourite series going on at the moment. On top of that, please go and check out my Patreon. The link to that is down below. You can get access to a great load of rewards, perks on there. In addition, check out my gaming podcast. All the links there are down below. Lots of great sort of topics and stuff going on there. Really enjoying doing that. And with that being said, we're going to round out there. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, ring the bell so you get notifications every time I upload. Drop a like on the video if you've enjoyed it, want to see more. Follow me on Twitter. The link to that is also in the description, as are the links to many, many other things. And with that being said, we're going to round it off there. Thank you so much for watching. And until the next time, I will see you soon.